I was diagnosed with MS in 2013. I noticed one day that my hands felt a little tingly. They were kind of cold even though it wasn't cold, and then strange sort of dull sensations. And then it spread to like my arms and my forearms, and then it lasted all afternoon. I'm like, oh, that's really weird. And then it was there again the next day. I'm like, oh, this is very unusual.
Okay, you guys, we seriously need to talk about Ned FULMER because honestly, he just will not stop making headlines. And listen, some of this stuff, I feel like maybe he should have led with some of these announcements during his whole comeback attempt because the timing of everything is just very interesting. People are calling it calculated, people are calling it a sympathy grab, and honestly, I can see why people are having these reactions.
What's up, guys? We got Cullen, we got Alex, we got Michael. Bam! And?
So, first things first. Ned is launching a new company. And before you roll your eyes, hear me out because this is kind of wild. He announced on Instagram this week that he's starting something called FULMER Creative. It's basically a YouTube and TikTok marketing agency, and he's partnering with something called Stealth Talent to help brands and founders, quote, tell their stories both on camera and behind the scenes. Now, in his Instagram post, Ned really went into detail about all the services they offer. He listed out everything from strategic workshops to competitive analysis, long-form video production, short-form video production, influencer and creator strategy, and brand and channel management. Like, the whole thing. He even put up an email address for people to contact him at fulmerpartner@gmail.com if they want to work with his team. And here's the thing that's actually kind of funny. Ever since Ned decided he wanted to come back to the internet, people have been telling him over and over again that maybe he just needs to stick to being behind the scenes. Like, not being the face of content, not hosting podcasts where he talks about his cheating scandal, not trying to make these knockoff Try Guy style videos where he's very carefully avoiding saying the words try or trying in any way. Just produce content for other people and stay out of the spotlight. So it seems like he might actually be listening, which is interesting because Ned historically has not been great at taking feedback from the audience he completely destroyed the trust with. But this move into being more behind the scenes and producing content for other brands and creators, that actually might be the smartest thing he's done since this whole mess started. I do wonder though, and I'm genuinely curious about this, who is actually going to be taking advice from Ned FULMER? Like, if you're a brand or a creator looking to grow your social media presence, are you really going to hire the guy whose career imploded in the most public way possible? Are brands going to want their name associated with his? I guess we'll have to see how this company actually does, but I have my doubts about how successful this is going to be. That being said, I do think that him being more behind the scenes is absolutely the way to go for him. Like, Ned is actually really talented at making videos. The production quality of the content he's been putting out on his own channel has been really good. The videos look expensive. They're well edited, the concepts are solid. The problem has never been his ability to produce content. The problem is that no one trusts him anymore, and seeing his face just reminds everyone of what he did.
How far can I walk without stopping? Here we go, let's find out. I'm going to keep walking until I stop, and hopefully I can make it 50.1 miles to Disneyland. For every 10 miles I walk, I'm gonna donate $1,000 to the National MS Society. It's Crash Dummy.
But okay, so that's the new company situation. Now, let's talk about what really had him in the headlines this past week. And this one is a lot more sensitive. Ned actually opened up about his health in a recent YouTube video, revealing that he was diagnosed with MS, which is multiple sclerosis, over a decade ago, like back in 2013. And I want to be really clear here before we get into the reactions, health stuff is deeply personal. People can share as much or as little as they want about their medical conditions, and that's completely their choice. No one is obligated to share health information publicly. But with Ned, because of everything that's happened and how his career trajectory has gone, people had a lot of questions about the timing of this announcement. So in the video, which was titled "I Have MS," Ned got really emotional. In the thumbnail, you can see him tearing up. The description said, "I have MS. I was diagnosed in 2013. It's a debilitating disease that strikes fear in my heart and affects millions of people." He went on to explain that living with MS for him means numbness in his hands on a daily basis, and living in fear of waking up one day and not being able to walk, which is something that actually happened to him back in 2013. He said one day he just woke up and couldn't walk. In the video, he challenged himself to walk as far as he could without stopping to raise money for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. He said for every 10 miles he walked, he was going to donate $1,000 to the National MS Society. He ended up walking 26.2 miles, which is a full marathon distance, and he got pretty emotional during the video, talking about his fears and his experiences with the disease. And look, MS is a really serious condition. It's an autoimmune disease where your body's immune system attacks your central nervous system. People with MS can experience numbness, tingling, vision problems, mobility issues, and it can be really scary and unpredictable. So absolutely, this is something serious that Ned has been dealing with. And I don't think anyone is questioning whether he actually has MS or whether it's a difficult thing to live with. But here's where things get complicated. The announcement was picked up by a bunch of major outlets, like Variety, E! News, US Weekly, Just Jared, Daily Mail. Everyone was reporting on it. And pretty quickly, people started asking questions in the comments, not about the diagnosis itself, but about why he's sharing this now. One person wrote this really long comment that I think sums up what a lot of people were feeling. They said, "What's interesting to me about all this is why choose now to discuss the struggles with MS? Back when you had a massive platform with the Try Guys, why not do something with them around it then? Considering you were diagnosed in 2013, the Try Guys did fundraisers and awareness-type videos then too, like the 2020 quarantine video and Eugene's video on the Trevor Project. So it's not like it was untreaded ground for the group. A video like that would have done really well back then and could have raised a lot of funds potentially." And they continued, "It just seems very convenient to do this now when your reputation is in the gutters, where it currently is, to now do a video on your struggles with MS. It looks like you're farming for sympathy." Other people pointed out that Zach, one of the other Try Guys, has been really open about his own autoimmune disease, ankylosing spondylitis. He even made a short film about living with chronic health conditions that went to multiple festivals. So the Try Guys audience was already familiar with disability and chronic illness advocacy. The platform was there, the audience was receptive, so why not share it back then? People also started questioning some of Ned's other recent video choices. Like, he did a video where he went up in a fighter jet doing all these intense maneuvers, and people were like, if you have MS and you know that physically demanding activities can make your symptoms worse, why are you doing that? Why are you putting yourself in potentially dangerous situations? The same thing with a wrestling video he did. It just seemed irresponsible given his diagnosis. One person commented, "Then what the heck were you doing on a fighter jet a month ago? You've had 12 years to learn that physically demanding activities exacerbate MS symptoms." And honestly, that's a fair question. Now, I do want to pause here and say that I think there are multiple things that can be true at the same time. I think Ned genuinely does have MS, and that it's been a scary thing for him to live with. I think he probably kept it private back in the Try Guys days because, from what we've seen in old interviews and content, Ned really cared about how he was perceived. He cultivated this image of being the perfect family man, the wife guy, someone who had it all together. And maybe he didn't want people to see him as someone dealing with a chronic illness because he didn't want pity or for people to view him differently. I also think it's possible that now, after his reputation has been completely destroyed and he's trying to figure out how to rebuild some kind of public-facing career, he's in this place where he feels like he has nothing left to lose. So he's opening up about everything. The cheating scandal, his marriage falling apart, and now his health struggles. It's all out there. But I also completely understand why people are side-eyeing the timing, because it does come across, whether intentionally or not, as potentially trying to generate sympathy at a time when public opinion of him is at an all-time low. And when you've broken your audience's trust as thoroughly as Ned did, they're going to question your motives for everything you do. And speaking of trust, we need to talk about the Ariel situation, because that's also playing into all of this. So, for those who don't know or need a refresher, Ned and his wife Ariel announced their separation back in September of 2024. They confirmed it on the first episode of Ned's new podcast, Rock Bottom, where Ariel was actually his first guest. And in that podcast episode, Ariel was brutally honest. She said flat out that she has not forgiven Ned for the cheating. Like, when asked directly if she's forgiven him, she said, "The answer is no. Absolutely not. How could you forgive somebody for lying to you? For cheating on you? No. No." She also talked about how she found out about the affair. Fans actually sent her pictures of Ned with the other woman, and Ariel said her brain couldn't even process what she was seeing at first. She thought it was Ned's sister in the photo because she literally could not believe what was actually happening. So Ned launched his comeback with a podcast episode where his ex-wife is telling the world that she hasn't forgiven him, and probably never will. And now he's following that up with an emotional video about his MS diagnosis. And I think that's why people are having such a strong reaction, because it feels like he's trying to rehabilitate his image through sympathy, rather than actually doing the work to rebuild trust with his audience.
And you looked over at me with this look on your face, and it was like the veil just fell, like this, like I knew in my brain that something was going on, but I just sort of refused to believe it. And then when I saw that, like, just wildly guilty look on your face, like you wanted to tell me something.
And here's the thing about Ned's situation that I think is really important to understand. It's not just that he cheated on his wife. Like, yes, that's terrible, but that's ultimately between him and Ariel. The reason his audience turned on him so completely is because he betrayed them too. Ned built his entire brand around being a wife guy. He talked constantly about how much he loved Ariel, how devoted he was to his family, how he was different from other men because he respected and cherished his wife. That was his whole thing. And his audience, which was predominantly women, loved that about him. They felt like they could trust him, like he was genuine, like he represented something better. And then it turned out it was all a lie. Or at least, it wasn't the whole truth. And on top of that, the affair was with an employee, someone who worked for the company he co-owned. So there were power dynamics at play that made the whole thing even worse. It wasn't just cheating, it was a workplace violation. It was a betrayal of his business partners. It was a betrayal of all the staff at the company. So when Ned tries to come back and he's making content but he's not really addressing the core issue, which is that broken trust, nothing is going to work. You can make the most expensive, beautifully produced videos in the world, but if your audience doesn't trust you anymore, they're not going to watch. I think what a lot of people were hoping for with Ned's comeback was genuine accountability and change. Not just him saying, "I messed up," but actually demonstrating that he understands why what he did was wrong on multiple levels, and showing through his actions that he's become a different person. Instead, his comeback has felt very focused on trying to impress people with content quality, or trying to generate sympathy through personal struggles. And I get it. I do. I think Ned probably feels really lost right now. His career is in shambles, his marriage is over, he's dealing with a chronic illness, and he's trying to figure out how to move forward. That's a lot for anyone to handle. But the problem is that his audience isn't there yet. They're not ready to feel bad for him. They're still hurt and angry about what he did. And until he can actually address that and rebuild that trust, not through flashy videos or emotional reveals, but through consistent, authentic behavior over time, I don't think his comeback is going to be successful. So where does that leave us with Ned? Honestly, I think this new production company thing might actually be his best bet. If he can stay completely behind the scenes, not put his name or face on anything publicly, just quietly produce good content for other people, that might work. Because he is talented at what he does from a production standpoint. But if he's advertising this company with his name attached, if he's the public face of FULMER Creative, I think brands are going to be hesitant to work with him. Because at the end of the day, brands don't want controversy. They don't want their marketing campaigns associated with someone who has the kind of public baggage that Ned has. The MS diagnosis is complicated because obviously it's a real health condition that he's been dealing with, and raising awareness and money for MS research is a good thing. But the timing and the way it's been positioned in relation to his comeback does feel strategic, whether that was intentional or not. And his audience, who already doesn't trust him, is going to view it through that lens.